See? I told you see you soon. I mean, I meant it. Going from beyond starting items in early game, the mid-game and late-game items that you will definitely want all stem from your purpose in the game. When it comes to boots, there are two options. The first scenario is one in which you are a poorer offlaner, or a position 4 or 5 support. Maybe your offlane didn't go too well and you've fallen behind. So behind that you don't actually think you have enough farm to be able to actually be a tanky frontlining initiator who can take a few jabs to the jaw like you first thought you could. I get it, it happens. Have you ever been in a game where you absolutely destroy an axe in lane, so much so that he gets a blink dagger and vanguard at 30 minutes into a game? But being a Dota player, the idea of change is spooky and scary to him, so he doesn't even deviate at all from the typical build. Even though he is miles behind everyone else. And 1 in 12, he still thinks it's wise to build as an initiator. He blinks into an army of 5 decked out hard carries, because of course one of the teams would have 5 hard carries. And even though we cast Berserker's Call, they deal so much damage and have so much health that they just kill him anyway. He gets off 2 counter helix procs because they end up killing him in 6 hits. That could be your fate if you're not careful. You could be that axe. You know the sort of axe that I'm talking about. You've seen him in games, right? But the fact that you acknowledge that means that you can change your build. As a support or an underfarmed offlaner, you transition into a sort of utility aura build and get arcane boots into greaves, and you know what? You win the game, because in dire circumstances, arcane boots and greaves are actually really useful. You don't need to tank the HP loss to cast Soul Ring because you've got a deeper mana pool. You can sell your Soul Ring. You don't die immediately because the opportunity cost for arcanes into greaves was actually a blink, and not getting a blink while you're underleveled compared to the people you could have been blinking on ends up being a good thing for your health. Greaves, as an aura, keeps your team healthy, keeps you at full mana, and gives an awesome armor aura. If you really wanted to, you can go Greaves and have a wonderful, wonderful game. But to the rest of you, you want me to talk about Phase. Phase boots are a shockingly good item on Mars. Scarily good. Suspiciously good, I might go so far as to say. You know how I said that Dota is balanced on knife edge and that 4% deviation away from that 50-50 chance of winning is extraordinary? Well, Phase boots, which are picked up in 90% of all Mars games, and are in fact the second most picked up item under Blink Dagger, come in at a whopping 55% win rate. Phase boots wins you games, and it makes sense, right? For the same reason that plus 20 movement speed from the level 10 talent wins games, so too does an over 50 movement speed increase from Phase. In fact, with it giving damage, and movement speed, and armor, it's almost like you're getting your level 10 and both level 15 talents at once. Fantastic item. Beyond that, we have Vladimir's Offering. As discussed earlier, Vlad's is an aura item. It's an aura lifesteal item, meaning it compensates the loss of health due to Soul Ring, and it's an aura lifesteal attack modifying item, meaning that God's Rebuke on a wave of creeps will lifesteal on every single one of them instantly and give you up to 500 HP per cast. Feel free to completely disregard any other HP regen option. I think we're covered here. After that, there's Blink Dagger, which I feel we've given plenty of reason to pick up just accidentally throughout all of this build. I mean, we haven't talked about him in an actual official capacity. It's just the Blink Dagger item just keeps popping up in many, many different scenarios. It's popped up while talking about every chapter of this mega guide. It helps farm, it helps get from lane to lane, it helps with combos, it helps counter some counters, it helps pull off clutch Arena of Bloods, and it allows for freedom of choice. And that's the most important thing. Plus, it opens you up to playing like Magnus can, where you can blink behind someone and skewer them back, except your skewer has a much shorter wind-up time and comes in the form of a spear. It's not an item that corners you into a specific way to play, which is ironic given the name of the video series, I know, but with Blink you can move on and get any other item. And so let's do that. Those other items include BKB. BKB is basically the extreme answer to the question, if Bulwark gives me attack damage resistance, what could I purchase to give me spell damage resistance? And there it is. Sure, you could get Pipe, you could also get Hood, or more HP, or any number of things, but that's a half measure. If you're wanting to do something in Dota, wouldn't you also want to be doing it in the best way possible? BKB covers literally all of your defensive bases. It blocks magic damage, it blocks most stuns and disables, it makes it so that you're unstoppable in the Arena of Blood, and it means that you will never have to turn and run. Because for Mars, turning and running is the point at which we've truly lost our way. Beyond that, there's Radiance, a personal favourite of mine, as you know. The joy of Radiance is that Mars can kinda get it really early, no matter the lane. Safe lane carry, mid laner, off laner, all 3 core positions will at some point level up Q and W. And that's all you really need to flash farm. You don't need items. Sure, boots and blink help transition between the camps or lanes or whatever, but overall you have more than enough damage to get a Radiance at of, I don't know, sub 14 minutes if you were really committed. Radiance is just great effortlessly. Think about the power pyramid and think about the heroes that hurt you. The top ones were heroes that burn mana, or heroes that can escape, or heroes that just stand their ground and deal more damage to you. But Radiance covers that all. Heroes that escape also use those escape abilities to kite you. Being a melee hero, kiting is a major issue. It's the same reason we advocate Radiance on Wraith King. And like Wraith King, Mars suffers from mana burn. PLs and illusion-based diffusal blade building carries crumble to the AoE-ness of Radiance. Plus the 65 attack damage for you doesn't hurt either. For more damage, Nullifier works. An Assault Cuirass also counts as a hybrid between damage and the next category of tanky utility frontlining items. Other items for that include Shivas, Pipe, Crimson Guard maybe, Blade Mail, Heart, and for lockdown you've got Eidos, and Abyssal, and Scythe of Ice. But then all of that pales when compared to that final item. Remember, with Refresher Orb, you can teach the enemy about graphs. Oh look, there it is again. How very interesting. It's that Venn diagram showing all of the people who will definitely be dead in a second. But now we're on the home stretch. Basically we're at a point where all I have to give are random facts that couldn't fit anywhere else. There's a couple of them, so would you mind if I just shotgun blasted them your way? 1. How can Mars win mid as a melee hero? Surely he'd be outclassed by heroes with a lot of range, like Sniper maybe. You bring up a good point, but funnily enough, the inverse of a Venn diagram works here. When talking about how effective Mars is against enemy mid laners of many a different range, it's sort of like an inverted bell curve. If you get too close, you're going to be hit by God's Rebuke. But if you're a sniper who hangs back really far and only comes in to get a last hit, you're actually in danger of being so far back that you're next to your tower and trees. And because of that, Spear of Mars becomes your weakness. Because most heroes stick to a certain range innately, it means that Mars can sort of cater his skill build to what he needs. If a sniper hangs back, you make him pay with Spear. If he comes close, level up God's Rebuke. If you're up against a Mars, there's a perfect midpoint where you're safe from both of those spells. So be wary of that and choose accordingly. 2. As a support, offlaner, or basically any position that takes a side lane, Mars is really good at countering supports harassing you from trees. Not only can he just do that thing where he turns and tanks your attacks, because you're up against a tree, he can't ever not stun you with Spear. And because you're in the trees, you're not near your carry. And because you're not near your carry, and stunned, you're now no longer alive. Rest in peace. 3. I've kind of found out that if you build too much utility and not enough damage, if you don't kill an enemy in 4 seconds, you don't kill them at all. Spear of Mars is an up to 3.8 second stun with a 14-second cooldown, and God's Rebuke is a nuke with 10 seconds of cooldown. Basically, because you don't want to have to use Arena of Blood for every single kill, if they survive the first 2 nukes and walk off the stun, you're not actually in a position to deal major damage to them again for another 10 seconds. You can die in that amount of time. Don't go in with all utility, even if you're a support, get some damage. 4. Mars is stupidly good at pushing. Both spells in conjunction instantly kill a wave in the early game, with just God's Rebuke killing a lane by itself in the late game. Because of their spells, it means that they'll always have to be available again for the next wave 30 seconds later. 5. Pin people between a rock and a hard place, or in this instance, a rock and a fiery burning wall of destruction. If you do it right, you can sort of make enemies bounce right off of the wall into a location that they can't occupy, like the Ancient or the edge of the map, and then they'll bounce right back and get hit again. In 12 months' time, we will all judge the best Mars players by their ability to place down arenas in the smartest of spots. Mark my words. Quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. And 6. Oh, here's just a bit of trivia. We're all done here. Here's a bit of trivia just to finish off. You know that little ditty that plays when Arena of Blood is cast? If you think it sounds familiar, it's because you've definitely heard it before. Or at least something that was heavily inspired by it. Here it is in its full glory.
This age of gods will soon meet its to the death!
And here's where you recognize it from. Crazy, right? John Williams, when he wrote the original score for Star Wars, took inspiration from 1,000 different places. But this very piece right here, this very piece came from an awesome old man named Gustav Holst, who composed the musical suite, The Planets. This particular part of the suite, well, that part comes from, and it's funny how all of this comes back around at this rate. The Mars movement from the suite. Play us out, Gustav.